So if we just do a quick review of the GTD 5 steps, first we have capture. So capture what has our attention. Then second we have clarify. So make decisions about those things, decide what they mean. And third we have organize. So put the results of those decisions into the appropriate places. And then fourth is reflect, review all of that as often as we need to. And then finally, step 5 is engage. And I just really have this sense that engage has a lot of depth and nuance to it. So what I wanted to talk about today was one aspect of engage, which is the threefold nature of work. And the threefold nature of work is one of those pieces of GTD that it's not necessarily talked about as much as, say the weekly review, but it really is such a foundational part of it. So I thought I would just take a little time today to talk about that. So for those of you who are maybe not as familiar with the concept of the threefold nature of work, what we're really kind of showcasing are the three types of work that we're doing, for the most part on a day-to-day basis. So the three types of work are doing predefined work, doing work as it shows up, or work as it appears, and then defining our work. So doing predefined work is really essentially working from our lists. And, the more we kind of do the thinking on the front end such that our lists are really clearly, granularly defined next actions, then the more of service the lists are to us when we actually have time to do that work. We've all heard David Allen say, slow down to speed up. And I kind of look at that as like do the thinking on the front end. So the more that we kind of define things as clear next actions, then when we actually have discretionary time to do that work, there's no more thinking to do. We can just really pick and choose from the lists. Then the second thing is what we call work as it appears. Sometimes we call it ad hoc work. And what we really mean by that is I call it appropriate ad hoc work versus I think David calls it something like irritation from surprises. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like the thing that just came in that is like absolutely important and immediate and I have to do it now, and I'm super clear about that because I really understand the nature of my role that it's coming from and the responsibility to really handle it, in the moment. And, that's different than work as it appears that's just an interruption or something that's just loud. So we really are talking about the thing that's really appropriate that we might not have anticipated, but really is in fact ours to do. So we really need to just cooperate with it versus get irritated by it. And then finally we have defining our work. So defining our work is essentially inbox processing, which is capture, clarify, organize new things. And, I've kind of talked about this before, but I would just like to really emphasize it again that, most people tend to underestimate how much time that takes on a day-to-day basis. And I kind of look at it as kind of like a math problem. So input in equals input out. So kind of sometimes we'll ballpark it on average about 90 minutes a day. I feel like that's a kind of good baseline to start with, because what we found is that 60 minutes, like one full hour for email, and then another 30 minutes for things like, text messages, voicemail messages, Slack messages, things like that. So, for most people, they can kind of count on, obviously some people need more and some people need less, but 90 minutes is a kind of it's a good kind of benchmark. And, it can be like a delicate balance to try to manage these things on a day-to-day basis. I've got, my lists over here, and I've got this interruption that came in. Oh my God, my email's over here, and it's piling up. So the thing I like to emphasize is that these activities that we're talking about with a threefold nature of work, they're really happening when we are not in meetings. So, one of the first things I'm doing when I'm working with clients is I'm looking at their calendar, because I want to see like really, really clearly like how much time they're spending in meetings versus how much space is in and around those meetings, because the threefold nature of work is really happening in that space in and around meetings, and can be really, really tricky to try to understand, how much time I need to be spending in meetings and the important work that I'm doing in those meetings, and at the same time making sure that I have adequate space for my predefined work, my defining time, and my, whatever kind of margin of error I need for unplanned work. So the thing that I find that can be helpful, and I'm always emphasizing this, is really making those activities distinct. I feel like David Allen has kind of turned me into a metaphor nerd. So I use the metaphor of the gym. So go to the gym, I have the pool, I have the weight room, and I have the yoga studio. And I know this sounds silly, but it's like I can't swim in the weight room and I can't lift weights in the pool. And so as silly as this is, I kind of really, really help our clients make, defining work versus predefined work versus unplanned work. It's almost like pretending that they're going into a separate room so that they can make those activities really distinct with clear edges around them. Because I find, when we do that, those are the days where we have that sense of at the end of the day, it's wow, I feel great. I felt like I was really kind of in command of my workflow. So just something to think about, just something to reflect on, and I hope this helps.